What's up, guys? Iridite again, back with another video. And today I want to show you guys how to do something that is super important, especially for us flatbedders. Load securement is critical for what we need to do. And of all the directions you don't want your load to go, you especially don't want it to go forward where you are in the cab of the truck and putting it into you. So one of the best ways that we secure our freight from moving forward is by building bulkheads. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that today. Let's get into it. All right, now setting up a bulkhead is very simple to do. You just need to have a few tools to start you off with. A ratchet binder or snap binder if that's what you're using, a chain, and dunnage. Now I use 4 pieces of dunnage when I make bulkheads, assuming that I have enough pieces of dunnage with me, and I usually do, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And you may or may not need a winch bar. Let's get started. All right, now I have an empty trailer right now, but for the purposes of this demonstration, just imagine that I have, a load of rebar on the trailer right now. So when you're setting up your bulkhead, you want to start off by placing the bulkhead as close to the load as you possibly can, while being next to a state pocket as well. So let's see, we'll do it this way. Imagine right here, right behind this piece of dunnage right here, this is where my rebar starts. So I want to try to have this bulkhead as close to the rebar as possible. That way, if I end up stopping short or I get brake checked, I hit my brakes hard and my freight for some reason tries to come forward on me, it's not going to have enough space to pick up momentum and be able to shoot itself forward into my headache rack and then into the cab of the truck. The dunnage is going to be right up against it to stop it from going anywhere before it even gets started. So take our first piece, and then you just want to stack them. Like I said, I use 4 pieces of dunnage. I always try to use 4. I see sometimes guys use 3. If I have enough pieces of dunnage available to make a 4-tier high bulkhead, I do that every single time, but I won't do anything less than 3, because you want the bulkhead to be taller than the load you're using the bulkhead for. That way you cover the entire height, or as much of the height as you can, of the freight, especially on a multi-tiered load of freight like a load of rebar would normally be. All right, that looks good. And you want to try to have these pieces of dunnage flush up against each other. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and get my chain here, and we're gonna feed that through the state pockets on the side. All right, so I'm gonna take my chain here, I'm gonna feed it through the state pocket, and then feed it through another one on the back end. And I wanna make a teardrop shape by hooking the chain onto itself. And when you're hooking the chain onto itself, you want to try to hook the end of the chain that's not welded. So when they're making these little links in the chains, they take the 2 pieces of metal, or they take 1 piece of metal and they form it around and then weld it together again. You want to get the piece that's not welded, or the side that's not welded, it's stronger. And you want to link onto that. And I'll give you guys a close-up of what I'm talking about with that link versus non-linked part. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Taking the chain, feeding it through. Opposite side. It helps if you try to keep the chain lined up on top of the dunnage. That way it's not pulling away from you all the time, or you have minimal resistance. And you want to try to make this as taut as you can. And you also want to have the hooks pulling away from the chain There we are. And specifically, let me give you an example of what you don't want to do when you're doing this. A couple of things you want to make sure that you don't do. Now, when I say you want to have the hook facing away from the chain, see how I have it here? The hook is facing towards me, this way, pointed up. You don't want to have the hook like this, facing down, you know, because it could potentially work itself undone. You know, if it gets pushed up against or something, it would loosen that chain up, and there's nothing keeping it cinched in. When you have it this way, gravity and the tension of the chain being tightened with the chain binder is going to keep it locked in. It's the fine details, guys. And then another thing that you do not want to do, said you go underneath. The way I had it here, you go through a state pocket, down, and then through the other state pocket back up. You don't want to do something like this, and make sure we can get it in the frame for you. You don't want to go down through the state pocket and then come up outside of the rub rail like this. You right? That's a no-no right there. You don't want to have the chain sticking out on the side of the rub rail. Everything needs to be inside. So we'll go ahead and put it back the correct way. And you want to try to get these hooks as close in to the load as possible. Now, I just said as close into the frame as possible. I meant as close to the center of the dunnage as possible. Now, this chain's not super crazy long, so the way that I currently have it placed is really about as good as it's going to get. And we'll use the chain binder to remove the rest of the slack, make this thing tight and stable. Okay, now once you get your chain binder, and I'm gonna specifically reference chain binders because that's what I use. You get your chain binder, you wanna put that in the center of the dunnage. And you wanna have it extended as much as you can. See, I have the hooks as extended as they can go without coming all the way out of the binder. And you wanna go ahead and hook onto the chain, not on the weld portion of the chain. And then you want to go ahead and just start cranking it down. And you want to try to avoid having your hooks roll up under like these just try to do. That's why I have my winch bar right here to hold this chain still, so it won't keep on trying to roll over on me like that. And then I prefer to have the lever facing, well, I guess it really doesn't matter that part. If you have to tarp it, I can see you wanting to put the lever down this way so that you don't have this part sticking out past where your tarp is. But if I don't have anything tarped, you know, I'll just leave it the way it is like that. And you always want to check it for tightness, make sure there's no wiggle room in there. Straighten that back out. That is it, guys. And the last thing I needed to show you guys, I specified not linking your chain binder on a weld. Let me show you exactly what I was talking about. That way I don't leave anybody confused. You see this portion of the chain right here, you can see that part that bulges out beyond the rest of the chain. That's the weld right there that I was talking about. You don't want to hook your binder on that side. You want to hook it on the smooth side. That side's stronger. And here's a look at the finished product. That's how you do a bulkhead, guys. Well, there you have it, guys. As you can see, building a bulkhead is not difficult to do. Just follow the technique that I showed you. It'll set you right. Keep you from getting turned into a shish kebab by any rebar that you might be hauling, that or anything else you might use a bulkhead for. I appreciate you guys all watching, and I gotta get back to moving this freight across the lower 48, guys. Air it out.